is
Micaiah.
with your morning announcements. Seniors, there will be a senior meeting during AF on Tuesday, April 17th in the auditorium.
The deadline for early college applications is this Friday, April 13th at 3 p.m.
Attention seniors, a reminder that Yostin's representatives will be at the school during lunch on Wednesday, April 18th to deliver your graduation products, caps, and gowns. Your balance must be paid in full. No checks can be accepted on the day of delivery. Cash or money ordered only, please. If you have any questions, please contact 1-800-567-8367 prior to delivery.
The Yellow Jackets Challenge is Sunday, April 15th, and we are looking for some students to volunteer to help in 2 areas. 1, swag bag table. Volunteers need to help set up and monitor the swag provided by our sponsors. 3 to 4 students will be required. 2, work and monitor the Children's Fun Run, which is held on the football field at 2:30. 3 to 4 students will also be required for this. This is a good event for Honor Society students to pick up some volunteer hours. Students can contact Ken Poor at pork@gpsmi.us for details. Now let's cut to lunch.
Today's lunch is pepperoni, calzone, breaded chicken drumsticks, chicken tenders, ham sub. Don't forget to pick up your trash. Back to studio.
Back. Seniors, senior wave will be recorded in the TV studio in the back of Mr. Wilson's classroom, room 522, during AF on April 18th until the 20th. There can be groups of up to 5 people at a time. Please sign up at the list outside of Mr. Wilson's classroom. It's first come, first serve. If you have any specific background wishes that you would like to be used during your wave, let us know during sign up. Any seniors who do not have AF can come to a makeup shoot at the TBD date.
It's the time of the year to start taking care of any negative lunch account balances. These need to be paid by the end of the year. If you're not sure of your balance, you can ask at any register in the cafeteria.
Next Tuesday, the 17th of April, those interested in helping to develop a skateboard/bike park can meet Doug Hinken at Veterans Park after school at 2:30 p.m. that day.
Now let's cut to office procedures with Ms. Schultens and Mr. Fetter.
This first video will help us to isolate the behaviors that are appropriate and inappropriate when in the office and counseling office under our new MTSS model. Let's begin by discussing good behaviors for the office and counseling office. Students are expected to be aware of surroundings, follow check-in and check-out procedure, speak in a courteous tone with appropriate language, practice patience while waiting for help, and share space with others. Let's take a look at an example of what not to do and see if you can decide what Mr. Fetter does wrong when he talks to Mrs. Van Hoos.
Is Oatley here? Where's Oatley? How about Gilbert?
Okay.
Gilbert here?
All
I need
right.
to talk to Gilbert now.
Well, what were some of the things Mr. Fetter could have done differently? Firstly, clearly Mrs. Van Hoos was on the phone. He should wait until she is done. Secondly, he called our assistant principals Oatley and Gilbert versus Mr. Oatley and Mr. Gilbert. Calling someone Mr., Mrs., or Miss is a respectful way to address teachers, staff, and administrators. Lastly, and worst of all, he wouldn't take no for an answer, smacking the desk to get Mrs. Van Hoos's attention. This is very inappropriate behavior. Let's look at another non-example to see what we could change.
Hi there, can I help you?
Yeah, I gotta see Mr. Oatley.
Wait. You need to
No,
stop
I gotta
and
see
wait.
Mr. Oatley.
You need to stop and wait.
Alright. Calm me down.
Again, Mr. Fetter was disrespectful in his treatment of Mrs. Van Hoos, not checking in before blowing right by her at the desk. Even if Mr. Oatley had called him down, students are expected to check in with Mrs. Van Hoos when they enter the office. Now that we've looked at a few non-examples, let's look at the right way to behave in the office.
Hi. Yep. Okay, I'll put it in. Thank you. Hi there.
Hi, I got called down to see Mr. Oatley.
Oh, okay. Why don't you just have a seat for a minute and I'll let him know you're here.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mrs. Olenak did all the right things here. She practiced patience and spoke in a courteous tone with Mrs. Van Hoos. All told, she did all the right things. Now let's look at another non-example with Mr. Fetter.
Hey, Mr. Fetter, can I help you find something?
No, I'm just looking.
Sure, I can't.
Yeah, can I? Yeah, no.
Can you see what he did wrong? Mr. Fetter was not being aware of his surroundings. There was someone there willing to help him, but he wouldn't listen. Again, let's look at the right way with Mrs. Olenak.
Hi.
Hi there. What can I help you with?
Yeah, I need a work permit.
How old are you?
16.
16. Okay. Over on the wall, the top row, it's the yellow form.
Okay. Right up here.
Yes.
Perfect.
That's the one.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Again, Mrs. Olenak demonstrated the proper way to interact in the office. She was courteous and patient, and most pointedly, she was aware of her surroundings. This awareness is essential to make sure that students can get back to class in a timely manner, and the least amount of time possible is wasted. This time we're going to switch up the format a bit and play Spot the Difference. We'll show you 2 clips rapid fire, and you get to find the difference between them.
Hey, did my mom call? Did my mom call? She's bringing my lunch. Did my mom call?
Can you hold on just a second? I'm
But
talking
did
to
my mom
another
call?
staff member.
I really.
It'll be
I was wondering if you could put this in the announcements.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. I'll just leave it here.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Oh, hi there. How can I help you?
I'm not feeling so well, and I was just.
Did you find the difference? Again, Mrs. Olenak was patient, courteous, and respectful of the conversation behind the desk. Mr. Fetter, not so much. Now let's zip over to the counseling office for another example we haven't covered yet.
I got called down to the office.
Can you wait just a moment, please?
I got called down.
But can you just back up? Just a moment, please? How can I help you?
Did you see what Mr. Fetter did wrong? He wasn't sharing the space with other students very well at all. Even if he had been called to the counseling office, he still needs to wait his turn once he arrives. Now let's watch Mrs. Olenak.
Okay, that's Mrs. Tripp. Would you like to have a seat for a moment? I'll see if she's available. Just have a seat for a moment. She'll be with you in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hi, how can I help you? Yeah, I just needed to talk to my counselor about my second semester schedule. Okay, what's your name? John.
Okay, it looks like she has somebody with her for a moment. Can you just have a seat for a moment?
Sure.
Once again, she was calm and polite. And this time, she also shared the space with others very effectively. Let's see if you can spot Mr. Fetter's error in this last example.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm 18,
Wait, you still have to sign
but
up?
I'm at least
You
18.
need to speak to your parents first before you leave.
Clearly, Mr. Fetter did not follow the check-in and check-out procedures. Even if he is 18 years old, or for any other reason, he still needs to check out when leaving the building. This is an essential measure designed to protect the safety of all of our students. So let's review. When students are in the office, they are expected to be aware of surroundings, follow check-in and check-out procedure, speak in a courteous tone with appropriate language, practice patience while waiting for help, and share space with others. Following these simple guidelines is one very important step in making GHS the place we want it to be. A place where we are responsible for ourselves, we respect differences, and we are resilient in learning.
This week, the GRIT team is recognizing the student council and we are interviewing them today.
How often do you guys meet?
Every other week.
How long are your meetings?
About 15 to 20 minutes.
Who are your guys' advisors?
Mrs. DeWind and Mrs. Phelps.
What do you guys do each week?
We collaborate with our teams to complete the tasks given to us.
What are your goals?
To improve student participation.
And what project are you guys currently working on?
Right now we're currently working on a fundraiser to get started stuffed animals and gifts for children at the Children's Hospital at Helen-Boss, Grand Rapids. So that's what we're working on now. We gotta wait to see what comes next.
And now, let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey G, you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time for the joke of the day. Hey, what happens when a frog parks his car illegally?
What?
It gets towed.
Let it go.